Hello from session 2 of the webinar Data Representation and Digital Storytelling in Intangible Cultural Heritage. I would like to thank the speakers for this session and all the attendants, and especially our participants who have been selected from the open call of the project Notes and Patterns. I'll be your moderator for this session, and we will explore contemporary aspects of intangible cultural heritage, including sustainable practices, ethnographic methods, and situated art practices. The project is funded by the European Union and is a collaboration of 3 partner institutions: the Textile Art Biennial hosted by Carnegie Institute in Slovenia, the National Museum in Gdańsk and the Department of Ethnography in Poland, and the Biennale of Western Balkans in Greece. Before we begin, just to inform that the webinar lasts approximately 3 hours. It is comprised of 3 sessions in total, and each presentation is followed by a Q&A time. So let's begin with session 2. Titled Situated Cultural Practices, Ethnography, Ecology, and Site-Specific Art. And I would like to welcome our first speakers for this session: Vita Ivičič, textile artist and designer, in conversation with Zala Orel, founder and director of the Textile Art Biennial in Slovenia. And Vita, Zala, over to you.
Thank you, Mariana. I'm honored to be among all who are textile thinking, and happy to start the second session. I will introduce Vita just in a little bit, just a short introduction to the Textile Art Biennial. We're organizing an interdisciplinary artistic event, an exhibition held in Slovenia, and this year with one exhibition also in Italy. Biennial is based on 3 principles: heritage, sustainability, and social impact. Within the Biennial, an artistic exhibition of textile art is held, and a community and research program where the exploration of the positive impacts of textile crafting on individuals and also on society is developed. Biennial promotes interdisciplinary artistic collaborations within projects and residencies, and presents work by international and Slovene artists with special emphasis on the best work of contemporary student production, and also understands that the future of art is also in the public and digital space. Sustainability, heritage, and preservation are taught of by Biennial artists, researchers, and curators who come together in projects that raise awareness of the circular economy, cultural heritage, and also environmental issues. We are partners of the Knots and Patterns project, but Mariana invited us, so her invitation was not self-evident to host this conversation of this part of the webinar, as we are in a way still learning or developing the methodology of visual presentations of intangible cultural data. However, she did recognize the sustainable or sustainability practices we try to promote, not only in art, but also in research practices. So one of the artists I see as kind of intuitively and genuinely sustainable is Vita Ivičič. Hi, Vita.
Hello.
So Vita completed her textile design degree at Chelsea College of Art and Design and Central St. Martin's in London, and then returned back to Slovenia. She's living and creating. Her work, or your work, include community work, nature resourcing, and of course a lot of storytelling. I would say in our conversation that will follow, we will try to highlight some of the aspects of sustainable practices in the narratives and approaches. So Vita, please share some of your work, introduce yourself shortly, and maybe try to answer along the way. How would you evaluate the impact of narratives and storytelling in an artwork and in the process leading to the final artwork?
Okay, so thank you, Zala. So my name is Vita Ivičič. I'm textile designer and artist, and as Zala said, I work with natural materials, and I work like with nature and for the nature. On the photograph, you can see a bouquet of flax flowers, and this is a material that I work a lot with, and I'm also growing flax and producing linen with it. And it's and making like clothes and art installations, and I also use some other natural materials as silk, as you can see on the photograph, and wool. I also use a lot of natural dyeing. When like I live in southeast part of Slovenia, surrounded with nature, and then I just see what I have around, and then I use these materials. I don't decide, oh, I want to do something and then order materials or go far away to get them, but I look what is surrounding me, and then I use these sources and materials. I also use a lot of antique hand-woven linen and antique textiles, like this shirt is made from old tablecloth, but then I just like give new meaning to materials that are like, I don't know, abandoned, that people are not using anymore, but then I make products from that and give them new life and the higher value. My practice is also known for printing with fresh flowers. These are some photographs from botanical printing. And each season I like use different flowers, depends what is growing. I also use a lot of marsh grass. And here is photograph when I'm dyeing with chokeberries. And reason for that is because my friend is producing chokeberries juice, and he got a lot of leftover skins. And so instead of him throwing them away, I use them. I dry them on the grass every summer, and then I just collect them and keep them in storage, and then I dye with them. So the reason why I'm using like a lot of purple color is because I have a lot of this material that is around me, not because I want to use that. Here are some like photographs from the other colors and my work. I also run a lot of workshop of natural dyeing, botanical printing, like using other natural materials. So I also introduce nature and art practice and creativity to different people, like to children, older people, professionals, just people who like craft and nature. So I kind of bring nature to them, especially like when I have workshops in city centers. It's like very goodly. It's very like popular because they don't have a lot of touch with nature, and they like just love that, to feel the different materials, to feel the grass, to feel the linen. So this is also what I'm doing. And here is last slide that is showing, like on the left is salad from beetroot, in the middle is botanical prints made with beetroot leaves, and on the right is dyeing pot that I dyed fabric with beetroot. So it's, in a way, what I'm doing is what I live. It's not just that I just make artwork and then live completely different lifestyle. It's what I do, like it's just my way of living, like living with nature, practicing art with it, and just also like eating food from the nature and creating things. So it's just my lifestyle. It's not that something that I'm just promoting, like this kind of lifestyle just for marketing, to sell more, to be more popular, but it's just the way how I live. So I think that's a very important part. Like, and this is my, in a way, this is storytelling. My lifestyle, how I live, like taking photographs, showing my followers how I collect materials when I go to the forest, taking photographs, so they can connect better with my work and they can understand it better. And it's also like, it gives my work bigger value and different value, I think.
Vita, you received an award for the most experimental and innovative collection at the Mittelmode competition during Milan Fashion Week 2017. You used old linen fabric and manual sewing techniques So materials and methods that 50 or 100 years ago might not have been considered innovative at all. And without a doubt, an amazing and beautiful project. I was and still am sort of intrigued by the fact that this is in today's world considered innovative. How do you reflect on this paradox?
Yeah, I think because of mass production, fast fashion, like a creative and fashion world is overwhelmed with that, with too many products. And when I was there in Milan, in front of judges, I just like showed them how I hammer fresh flowers on the fabric and get the pattern. And I told them that I didn't buy any material. I didn't spend any money to buy material. I just collected antique hand-woven linens, which is like extremely a high quality material, and I just dyed them with turmeric, the fabric, and I just printed fresh flowers. So it was something that they didn't expect, I think. And I created like whole collection from nothing, just with my hands, with materials that I collected, and with like the knowledge. So I think that's something that impressed them. Yeah.
So the idea of, cradle to cradle design introduces ethical and environmental imperatives, but how can we ensure that practices such as the use of vintage quilts or dead stock fabrics do not unintentionally perpetuate cultural appropriation? Should the fashion and art industries be held more strictly accountable when incorporating elements of cultural heritage, especially from, for example, marginalized communities? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there should definitely be more strictly, especially because big brands, big companies are using these inspirations from other cultures and communities just for marketing and to earn money. So their aim is not to help them to promote their culture, but just to earn money. And I think that's the biggest problem, because if we use their I don't know, symbols like from their clothing or the way how they're living, I think we need to do that in a way that we include them in our work and that we support them with that. And so it definitely must be more strictly how we approach that.
But you do that, right, with your community practice in Chernomel, which
Yeah.
is a part of the southeast Slovenia. You have a very like connecting practice
Yeah.
and working with them. How do you approach people?
Yeah. So when I will talk, you can also look at the photographs. So I come from southeast part of the country. It's called Bela Krajina, which is white Carniola. And we are known for producing white linen cloth in the past, but sadly all this practice died. So I tried to awake that and to learn other people the knowledge that disappeared. So in 2022, I started growing flax and producing linen with help of Domaćija Restoration and National Park. They gave me the field, all the traditional equipment, and then I invited community to help me. Like we were harvesting by hand flax for 2 days, and all 80 people came from 6 years old to 88 years old. And I was so surprised because I didn't expect that the interest would be so high. So we have this project now, and almost every year, like we are producing linen from flax in traditional way, and just like preserving knowledge. And this is one important part. Other part is community, because in these gatherings, people are like getting to know each other. They're sharing their stories. They're learning, and they're in touch with nature, with all these materials. And this is I think it's uplifting them. And for me, it's important that the knowledge is shared and that we are like preserving that. So here are some photographs that you can see from the flax that we were then produced into linen. But yeah, so yeah, I'm doing that and trying to preserve that.
Historically, sustainable practices like natural dyeing or recycling were intuitive and embedded in everyday life. Today, they are kind of reframed as innovations also within European policies, like the new European Bauhaus. How can we critically interpret artworks that align with political sustainability agendas? Should we welcome them, or as tools of awareness, or approach them cautiously to avoid instrumentalization or superficial readings of culture and nature?
I think it depends on like each work, each practice is specific, and we must be aware that some of the projects are just like marketing and just brainwashing. And they're just using terms sustainability and circular design just to get promotion and like for the marketing. But other practices are like, and many artists are really living that and doing that by heart and with good intentions. So I think we must be like careful what we are promoting, what we are supporting, and what we are not, because some some projects are like very good and should be supported and others are not. So, because I think market is overwhelmed with term sustainability, and we kind of lost.
Absolutely agree. Within this project, Knots and Patterns, we try to highlight community knowledge, cultural heritage research, and sustainable aesthetics. We kind of believe that this sustainable pattern in the use of resources opens a space for deeper inquiry. And as a final question, in your view, what methods or research approaches best support truly sustainable practices in art and design, not just in content, but in process, in collaboration, and in long-term impact? What is sustainable artistic research, in your opinion?
I think the most sustainable thing and important is preserving and sharing knowledge. So our future generations will have the knowledge to create these artworks, to preserve like traditions, and that's what I'm doing with this linen project. Because when I started it, we didn't know what we are going to do, like what is our final product is going to be. We just wanted to learn like again how to produce linen, and 80 people came, and they were like they came to my workshop for whole year. But then me and my friend Matea applied to Textile Zala that you were talking about, and then for our project we used flax stems and linen threads that we hand spoon during this flax project. So we didn't know that we are going to create art project, but in the end, like we made installation with Matea, and I think it's important, like connecting community, and the thing that I like that they're just like they want to be part of it, they want to be part of art world, but they just don't know how to do that. But we can help them, like just with our workshops, showing them what is possible and just including them in these projects.
Okay, Vita, back to you, Mariana.
Thank you so much, both, and thank you for this conversation. Indeed, so in the context of ecology and sustainability, the art-based methodologies can offer these engaging and creative ways to support and share knowledge with the broader audiences. I think we are on time, but since Zala is putting the questions for Vita, I have also a very quick question. If you can share, Zala, because you've been a dedicated advocate for textile and heritage in ecological context, you are promoting a rich spectrum of inspiring settings and media. Can you share maybe some of the new ways you are exploring to share this knowledge and experiences? What you would maybe see as untapped or underexplored areas in this field?
Well, thank you for the question. Could be maybe just very short in a way. What motivated us with this project was constantly getting artists on the residencies starting at point zero, starting to ask questions about heritage, about industry, textile industry, getting to know people. And then all of a sudden, the idea was, where is the documentation already? Why don't we have it? Why it doesn't grow? So I'm very much interested in growing these sustainable practices in research. So new artists that come to the same place, to the same textile landscape, textile cultural landscape, as we'd like to call it, come to the place and can build on what the previous artists and researchers already researched on. This, I think, it would be such a great sustainable research practice, and also, of course, understanding how to, not just collect, but how the digital data stays somewhere and it doesn't turn into the digital waste. We are so aware now, I think, about the design practices and art practices and recycling and tangible, but I kind of it's in the future, but like the digital waste will be probably more problematic one day than the actual waste we're going to produce, because everything is going to be recycled, hopefully.
Indeed, problematic, as you said, but important to document either way. So thank you so much for the conversation, Zala and Vita. And I would like to move with our next speaker in session 2, Małgorzata Dubasiewicz, a custodian. She's a custodian in the Department of Ethnography in the National Museum in Gdańsk and a member of the Polish Ethnological Association. Gosia, if I may, over to you.
Hello, thank you for the invitation. The title of my presentation is Problems and Contexts of Ethnographic Fieldwork. So one of the goals of the project Knots and Patterns is to document local textile heritage. The process will be carried out, among the others, through field research using the ethnographic methods. Thus, I want to make just an introduction to the topic of the ethnographic fieldwork and point the problem that ethnographers face while conducting the research. My speech plan is I will try to give short answers to the following questions. What actually ethnographic fieldwork is, what does doing and writing ethnography, what does doing and writing ethnography means, and what's the research ethics. Let's start with the term fieldwork. In general, it refers to the process of gathering raw data. And let's go to the term ethnography. Ethnography, general definition, says that it's art and science which concentrate on description of group of people, its institutions, behaviors, material, products, and the main rule of ethnography is rather looking for the patterns, not single interaction. And in anthropology, the term ethnography might be understood in two ways. First, ethnography as a method, and the second, ethnography as a result of research. So ethnography as a method, it means that it's based on fieldwork, is personalized, it requires long-term involvement of researcher, it's based on the dialogue, and it's inductive. And the ethnography as a result of research, it means that ethnographic report often takes the form of narrative or a story. And what does field mean in ethnography? Almost any location can become the field. A village in Poland, a bar, cafe, or a corporate office in Athens, or a social networking site, for example, Facebook. As we remember, the term ethnography means description of a group of people which takes into account the patterns which exist in this specific society. So now the question is how to find this pattern. And ethnographers are using many data collections technique, but they can all be divided into 3 basic skills. First, observation, second, interviewing, and the third, analysis of existing data. And first, observation. The definition says that it's the act of perceiving the action and interaction of people at the researcher site through the researcher 5 senses. I might say something obvious, but the ethnographers must constantly remember it. Observation may seem to be the most objective skill because it requires minimal interaction from the researcher. But we cannot forget that the objectivity of our senses is not complete. We all look through our culture glasses, including our beliefs, value system, and good researcher must be aware of this perspective, which we call ethnocentrism. That's the belief that our way of thinking and acting is better than other ways. And the second point is that we look through glasses or filter of our theories, analytical frames. Then it's the part of research method. We can distinguish among the other types of observation, like participant observation, non-participant observation, undisguised observation or disguised observation. And for example, undisguised observation, it means that participants are warned that they are observed. At the same time, they are notified about the purpose of observation. And disguised observation, it means that people don't know that they are observed. And here, important point, contemporary ethical standards regarding conducting research strongly limited the scope of secret observation. Once we observe some problems, maybe patterns, we can start asking about it. Conducting interviews grows logically out of observation. So now we move on to the next method. We use in ethnography, interview. What are the features of ethnographic interviews? So first of all, it's open and it's in-depth. What does it mean that it's open? The conversation is open to digression. Digression may show new path of analysis that researcher had not previously considered. And what does in-depth mean? It's not an oral version of questionnaire. It's discovery-oriented method. Its aim is to enter a conversation to examine nuances, to identify the gray areas that cannot be reached with either-or questionnaire. And there are also other methods like analysis of existing data. So we know that the groups of people tends to collect things related to their history. And the challenge for the ethnographer is to find such sources of information and organize them sensibly. So, for example, maps, chronicles, records of births, deaths, marriages. And we should remember that ethnography as a method is multifactorial. Field research is conducted using combination of these methods. Then our result might be more precise. Let's go to the next step, writing the ethnography. During the ethnographic fieldwork, ethnographers produce some written and visual sources, for example, field diary, field notes, and these sources are just the substrate. They need to be organized and analyzed. Yet, the ethnography is based on the theoretical foundation of anthropology. So the main goal of ethnographic writing is to create work that advance the comparative understanding of human culture. First step of writing, the ethnographic sources are field notes. Good ethnographic observation requires the habit of preparing decent notes, which they are recorded by researcher in the course of fieldwork or after the observation. I will just point out one thing worth remembering. We should take notes as soon as possible after observing an event. And then the notes must be developed. And let's skip to the next step, the process of data analysis. Once the ethnographer has collected data using different techniques, he or she faces the question of what to do with such a large amount of data. Contrary to the popular belief, facts don't speak for themselves. Data must be analyzed. So we are searching for answer to the question of what patterns, regularities, or themes emerge from the data set. And we try to answer the question of how we can explain the emergence of this pattern in the collected data. And here we touch a very important part called emic and ethic perspective. During the fieldwork and during the analysis of data, we look for the perspective of our informants, so insiders' point of view. But we use also our own point of view, which is researcher perspective, which is called ethic perspective. And we use it to compare with other culture. And next point, presenting the data. If the researcher does not allow other people to read the conclusion, then collecting data does not make much sense. The point is to enable dialogue between researchers. And the traditional form of presenting ethnographic data is form of academic writing, like article, books, paper, but there are also alternative forms of writing, like personal narrative, short stories, poems, autoethnography, ethnodramas, or also visual documentation, like documentary or feature film, websites, museum exhibition, like here on the picture. And let's go to the last point. I will just touch few problems that we face during the ethnographic fieldwork. First of all, informed consent, then the problem of privacy and harmfulness. And for example, the problem of privacy is the problem related to division between what's public and what's private. Ethnographic research can expose private matters to the public view. And what can be the consequence of this? That's harmful, might be harmfulness. It's harmfulness, like damage to reputation, hurt feeling, using the research result for other harmful purposes, like research used by armies during the Vietnam War, exposing also the researcher himself to danger, like revenge. And let's go to the last point of this, like ethical matters. I would like to just point out that there has been a general shift from thinking about the research participants as research subjects towards perceiving them as a partner. And in the end, I would like to explain why I use the word context in the title of my presentation. Ethnography is a result of meeting, encounter between researcher and informants. And the core of ethnographic fieldwork is meeting. This meeting is a process that we can compare to process of weaving together the textile. That's one of the most important contexts of ethnographic research. The term context comes from Latin contextus, from con, together, texture, to weave. The researcher and the informants weave together. And the similar meaning we have in Polish word meeting, spotkanie. Here we also have the meaning to weave together. I wanted to underline this aspect because it strongly corresponds to the topic of your project, knots and patterns, and to the ethnographic fieldwork. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, Gosia, for this insightful presentation on ethnographic methods and challenges. Before heading to our next speaker, I just want to briefly highlight all the inspiring works you do at the Ethnography Department of the National Museum in Gdańsk, particularly pointing to one of your recent publications, which is co-edited by Ania Kraska, a custodian in the Ethnography Department, which is called Shelters, Essays for a Time of Crisis. And the introductory article by Anya addresses climate and multicultural storytelling. And another contribution by Lara Hoffman, Anya Voistinska, and Doug Sigmarsdottir, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It is about community co-creation, developing participatory research methods, also art-based methods. So I think it is very relevant to our webinar discussion, and here is the actual catalog. So thank you very much for your presentation today. And I would like now to move to our next speakers with actually the concluding presentation for this session, Yannis Ziogas, professor at the Department of Fine and Applied Arts in the University of Western Macedonia in Florina, Greece, and Geert Vermeire, artist, poet, curator, and cultural manager. So Yannis and Geert, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. It was great to see all our colleagues working in parallel fields. Geert?
Hello to all. Thank you indeed for weaving this together. The introductory text or presentation about weaving textile and the research and ethnographic dimension in this context of digital storytelling and intangible cultural heritage is much complementary to what we are trying to achieve in Prespa and in other countries around working arts as a methodology for bringing and weaving people together, working with them in the field. I'll let Yannis make an introduction, and then we go to more deep into the process that we are elaborating.
Yes, I mean, things started from what you will see has started from two initiatives. It started from the concept of topos, of place, and also from the concept of the watching body. And that was a process. Of course, watching has a long history in the field of arts. And let's say that we are in the last thread of that, the latest rather thread of that. And we hope that we bring something new into that by introducing communities into this process. So I will not take a long time to say what we have been doing. These are initiatives that started from two entities, let's say. The one is the Milena Principle, where Geert and other colleagues of his in Belgium initiated, and more than 10 years ago. And also more than 10 years ago, we initiated in Prespa a process called the Visual March to Prespa. So this has culminated lately with a program called Walk and Local Communities that has brought together 7 partners from various places of Europe. And it is but also a large global network from partners and individuals from almost every single part of this of Earth, so to say. So this is Prespa. Prespa is not is like a laboratory of ideas. It is a place that for all these matters that you are describing, it is very rich. And also it is, that makes it also, it is adds to its particularity, I will not say uniqueness. It is in a border situation between Albania, North Macedonia, and Greece. So this is the outline of. We can go to the second one. You can here read which is the opening paragraph, let's say, of our proposal and our running project, which is working as a collaborative medium and, of course, community-based medium, trying to establishing an international center for artistic research and practice of working arts in Prespa, an international working arts encounters in the natural reserve of the area, physical events that go along with horizontal online events, organizing events and residencies in the consortium partners, but also broader, community-based practices, as I have said, and we are going beyond the established art world, I will say, and market. And so, Geert, you can.
If I can jump back to the consortium, the group of people that are involved, actually, which are a group of places that are involved, we have a strong focus on place that is explored by walking as a tool for bringing people together. With the communities, the local communities, in an intersecting dialogue with each other. Now in Portugal, where I am in Guimarães right now for the local activity which is called the Walking Body, we are very much focused on the industrial cultural heritage related to the textile, the leather industry. But at the same time, this place is not only a small town, it stretches out into a large rural area and embraces this rural ambience and the rural population into rediscovering the industrial and cultural heritage of the city through making walks together. In Catalonia, where our other partner is situated, the methodology is through walking 300 kilometers with a group, crossing villages and the mountains, interacting with artistic interventions and the local people. And in Villefagnan in France is in the valley of Villefagnan, which is also a natural area. All the partners are situated in natural areas that are at the same time valuable ecological and cultural sites. There, the focus is on the community of refugees and how to extend this storytelling, but at the end, this project is about collecting stories, involving stories, but bringing in this collective knowledge, which is as much ancestral as based on the nature that we are part of, but also relating beyond the European context to the stories and experiences that are shared with us from people that come to Europe and that have their roots in the global south. This extends to Belgium, where we are now developing as well in the rural area a process of walking as a manner to involve community and relate to the local rural and ancestral traditions. Next to in Greece and Prespa, where Yannis is already years working with the local community in the villages of the Prespa natural area. The digital aspect of it is that we are using digital media as a way of collecting, but as well as a creative tool to bring the stories in augmented reality, in layers of the artistic contributions over the landscape by using the so-called locative medium and digital installations that not only showing these stories from the locations itself, but also allowing people in remote places to meet and share their experiences. The whole base of this project is that it is, as Yannis said, beyond the established art market, that it is a project that is based on the community and on the places themselves, not bringing in something from above. And is as well exploring alternative ways of bringing art to places where normally you would not expect much artistic activity, by seeing art as a healer, as a reinforcer of the local needs. So we are much focused on what the needs and what the questions from the local communities are. By blending these two very, apparently very different, but not that diverse approaches of digital storytelling with this immaterial form of art, which is walking as a process.
I would like to add to that healing is the one part. The other part is that we bring back to art, not to art. We are, in a way, without being nostalgic, we bring to art its very beginning, so to say, which was art was de-objectified in the beginning. There was no art in the way we consider it now. What was is that people were meeting and they were dancing. They were making moves, and that was made into dance, let's say. People were meeting to say stories, and that became theater. We want to really consider this part of artistic how to say, reality when encountering and meeting people was important, and making objects was non-important at all, or even it was without a meaning. It was meaningless. And even the objects that were created, they were objects that they were not meant to be commodifications, but they were meant to be acts of communication, whether they were material or immaterial. So these are some of the places where we are working. That was Gdańsk. This is in Catalonia. Then we are in a rural urban area before that in Thessaloniki, the Dropotamos for those who know, and Prespa. But place is important not as a landscape for its sensorial sense, but as a place of experience. And so that's the difference, I think.
So we'll keep some time for some questions and some exchanges of ideas. Here you find our socials, and as well, we would like you, if you find some time, to fill out a small contact form that we are presenting here to a QR code. But now we are much open for a dialogue with you. About
one more thing, Geert, if we will allow me, we have to say that between the 30th of June and the 6th of July, there is the big encounters in Prespa with tens or even hundreds of people who come to join, to meet and exchange ideas. Of course, you can go to this site that Geert gave you, but there is also another part of that, which is the site of the conference itself. So if you want to participate or attend as an attendee, you are welcome to come and join this community of people coming from all over the world in that place of Europe that somehow also exemplifies, especially now with the new political situation, you know, that the future, the past can be also the future, and we try this future to be a future that is manageable, so to say, not disastrous for what humanity is.
Thank you so much, Yannis and Geert, for this inspiring project, and thank you for going through all these important points. I mean, this seems very compelling in community contexts, and the fact that it can result in embodied experiences. I think we might not have time for many questions. I just want to point out that this is indeed a long-standing work actually of Yannis and Geert, that it transpired into a project now, and we will be happy following this along. Just very quickly, just a comment, because on a practical level, you also, Geert, you discussed about digital storytelling, and there are many projects and many initiatives that use locative media and locative storytelling on an international scale. But on a practical level, I'm wondering, are there any options that are fully developed, like applications or ready to use open source software? Because I've come across many that seem more like prototypes or require significant configuration and additional extensions to function effectively. So the technical question.
Within the project, we are indeed using some tools which are as well partly developed by ourselves. And I'll share some of these tools in the chat that are exactly what you are describing, and what indeed the community that is now among us may be looking for. The Place Cloud is a platform that is specifically for cultural heritage and is developed by Workers and Create, which is the platform that is in the consortium of this work project, and that is completely free and open access. And that allows you to make so-called locative podcasts, share audio stories about specific places, and that is both accessible as an application on the go as on Google Street View, where you can walk on your computer through places and listen to the stories while you're passing buildings and landscapes. CG Map is another one based on mapping that is also has this double feature of being both on desktop as on an application, accessible, making the contents accessible. And I'll share it with you as well, an article that I wrote, which is available online, which is listing many of these free open access applications with different specifications and criteria that may be useful for the people that are among us today.
Thank you so much, Geert, for these resources. Very valuable indeed for practicing and doing art-based methodologies work in fieldwork contexts. So with this presentation, we conclude session 2 titled Situated Cultural Practices, Ethnography, Ecology, and Site-Specific Art of the webinar Data Representation and Digital Storytelling in Intangible Cultural Heritage as part of the project Notes and Patterns co-funded by the European Union. I would like to thank once again the speakers and everyone attending, and see you in session 3.